Everyone, I am really excited this morning to introduce you to a long-standing good friend of mine, Reg Athwal from Dubai. Reg, how long has it been, buddy?
What, being in Dubai?
No, us. How far back do we go?
Oh, it's close to 20 years.
So Reg and I spent a number of years in an international mastermind group where we helped each other grow and build our businesses. And a lot of what I'm doing now was thanks to Reg being a part of that group. And everyone who was involved with that group, Reg, I don't know if you can remember, said that their careers all took a bit of an upward trajectory thanks to the group that we had. Do you remember that?
100%. And that's the power of masterminding and building a peer group, isn't it?
Reg, we also have a number of speakers visiting with us this morning. So for their benefit, let me say that Reg is the founder of the Speakers Association of the Middle East, or in Dubai. Reg, oh, I'm so sorry, Reg, I'm ill-prepared for this one. You are a past president of the PSA UK, am I correct?
That's right, yes.
And one of the very early members there. And Reg, you're a fellow of the association in the UK, right?
Yes.
Which is as close to the Hall of Fame as they get. So Reg, as a speaker, as a consultant, as a trainer, you have built a formidable business in the UAE. I have watched you mushroom through the years, and you are the talk of the town amongst many other well-established speakers by just how well you have managed to grow your business. Tell us briefly about your business and what you're doing now.
So Stef, thank you very much, and formally welcome everyone to being on this live event. Quick story and sort of the link to the current business model, what I'm doing. I come from a family business bloodline. My grandfather was a first-generation entrepreneur back in India, and built a sizable portfolio of assets and empire at a fairly young age. And then the second generation, 9 kids or so, 3 of them boys, and the eldest of the boys was my father. My father had a chance to migrate to the UK at a young age. He was about 13. And I'm sharing this story because it links into my purpose in life and how my business came about. It's not a keynote presentation, but as a result of what my grandfather had built, unfortunately had an accident at a fairly young age, and the difference generation to generation is very small. It's like 21 years, 22 years, grandfather, father to me, and I was the eldest of the 3rd generation, around 9 years of age, and we got that phone call in the UK, and we discovered that my grandfather just passed away and had an accident. And literally everything changed from that moment on in our family. We used to go to India every year to meet our family. Eventually, my father went into war with his brothers, my uncles, over the assets that had been built up by my grandfather. And eventually, my grandmother slapped some sense into all of them, which took many years to split up the assets. And then my father said to me, Reg, son, he goes, what we used to call family is no longer family. And I couldn't understand that. I couldn't get my head around that. So as a result, I got into the human capital, HR space, psychology, these areas from a young age, reading lots of books. And that's how my journey started in business, building businesses in the HR space mainly. And then 17 years ago, I met one family who told me that they had some business issues and they wanted to invite me in to have a look at their leadership issues, challenges. And cutting a long story short, having spent 3 days with this family in Saudi Arabia, I met 47 family members over 3 days. Huge family business, at that time a $400 million business. And I realized that what they were telling me was they had business issues. They really didn't have business issues, they had family issues. And if they didn't resolve those family issues, it was going to have an impact on their business and they'll sabotage their business. And that's pretty much the day I decided that I put a mission and purpose together that the rest of my life will be devoted to helping as many family businesses as I can to build legacies and not sabotage their success
And
And
that's
it.
what you've done, Reg. I mean, in the journey, you've not only become a best-selling author, you've not only started a TV channel, you've not only built this business around helping family businesses, but you actively help these businesses to create legacies and to grow and to get through crisis times like we're facing now, which we'll talk about in a moment. And in my earlier conversations with you, we clearly see an overlay between these family businesses and businesses in general. Because when you say business, family business, many people think you're talking mom and pop stores. Just quickly set us right on the types of family businesses that you deal with, Reg.
Well, we've worked with 126 families to date with our advisory consulting business. And typically, these are $100 million plus businesses. The total net worth, equity value created, all these businesses today, we keep a record, is about $6.2 billion.
Okay, so these are not mom and pop stores, right,
no.
Reg?
No. However, back to what you're saying, Stef, the principles of how they grew their businesses, and some of them have been around for like 100 plus years, and only 3% of family businesses survive to 100 years plus. So a lot of these businesses, they were all small to medium size at some stage. The founder started the business as an entrepreneur and then grew it, and then second generation came along. Now, the only difference here today, speaking to all of you, is we're talking about bloodline, okay? But if you remove bloodline, you still can be an entrepreneur where you're building a business and you're employing people. Some of those people could be with you for 25 years. You treat them like family.
Got it.
But they're not bloodline, but you treat them like they are. So small to medium-sized enterprises who've grown to be these large family businesses have been through previous recessions. They've been through previous crisis situations. So what did they do to enable them to come through, survive, sustain, and then carry on growing through those tough times from the past? And we've documented that. We have a methodology. We've researched it now for the last 17 years of what are some of those things. And one key thing, I think, Stef, if I may, is really linked to what we call building a regeneration path. Too many businesses are stuck with, we've always done it this way, this is our product and service, this is our business model, and it takes a crisis like 2020 or back in 2008 to wake up and go, hang on, your business model is obsolete, okay? Let me give an example. We have a family business right now in the UAE that has over 100 retail outlets for their particular product across the region. As a result of this crisis, they're going to close down around 95 of those outlets. Why? Because they knew they had to do this last year, the year before, but it was like, you know what, we've done this for so many years. This is our model. The footfall will increase in the future. We're just going through a bad economic period. Things will pick up. And coronavirus, COVID-19 crisis has reached the tipping point where it's forced them to rethink their business model and go, hang on, we'll keep our flagship store. We'll build warehouses behind it. Okay, we'll do all the loading. We'll make sure customers get products directly to their door. We'll cut out 95% of our stores and use that money wisely for marketing and developing new innovative products. But they're forced into that situation.
I get that. And Reg, that's not something unique to family business. And I want to ask you, so the fact that this client of yours has been forced into making decisions that they were meant to have made anyway. It's a business with 100 retail stores. That's a fair-sized business overall, let alone family. So we can remove from the dialogue at this point that it's a family business, and we can speak about it as a business in general.
Yeah, I mean, let's get straight to, because of the time we have, let's get straight to the business side, okay?
Yes.
So what are some of the things that we've done with our clients to turn them around, make sure business growth happens, make sure the legacy continues? Let's go down to some hardcore basics when it comes to your business model and your strategy. So what we do is we like to plot out, first of all, gather data in a business to plot out, okay, what type of customers have you been dealing with, clients have you been dealing with in the last 12 months? So before Corona, let's just take 2019. and I'm going to do an exercise virtually with all 50 plus of you who are watching this right now. So in 2019, before the coronavirus, how many customers or clients were you doing business with? Total, okay? 5, 10?
And Reg, they're picking this up from where? Just from old records?
Yeah. I mean, if you're not keeping proper data, I'm sure you could go through all the invoices that went out on your system, okay? Or you've got some sort of basic CRM already in place, who knows? But you should be able to get this data, okay? Now, assuming you've got that data, and I'm just going to give one example. Let's say we're dealing with clients, okay? I'm going to use a professional services term. We're dealing with clients. And last year you worked with 50 clients. Looking at those 50 clients, we now go through a health check with the following criteria. Number one, with those clients, did your volume of business increase or decrease last year? And you can now take, if you had 50 clients, you could dissect them to go, okay, these are financial services clients. These are retail clients. These are telco clients. These are mining clients. These are B2B clients. These are wholesale clients. These are retail clients. These are online clients. These are e-commerce clients. You can break down the customer segments of that client base. Hope that makes sense.
Got it.
Because you've got to analyze this in each segment, not just overall. So if we take clients, financial services, 10 of them out of the 50. And we noticed that the volume overall over 12 months reduced, okay? The revenues that they were giving us, the top line fees we were charging, whatever, the volume has come down, okay? Okay, first health check, business health check. Second one.
And Reg, maybe we're not wanting to look at turnover with those clients. Maybe we want to look at profit stream, because that will differ from segment to segment of your clients.
Yeah, you've got to come up, because there's so many people on here listening with different businesses. You've got to come up with what you feel is the right model.
Reg, just going to ask all the viewers quickly, if at all possible for you to turn your camera on, please do that. It really helps us if we can see who we're speaking to more than just the names. But if it's not convenient, don't. Reg, back at you.
Yeah, so based on the first one, volume, the next one would be frequency, or some people refer to as repeat business. So I may have dealt with one client in Q1 2019, and they gave me X amount of profit or revenue turnover. And for the rest of the year, they never came back. There was no repeat sale. There was no upsell. You didn't do any more work with that client, okay? Versus another client where you did work in Q1, but they carried on working with you in Q2, Q3, and Q4. So the second thing to look for is what is being the frequency, okay, of your client base if you look at 2019. Hopefully everyone's still with me. Go in the chat. I hope you're coming on this journey and this is making sense. Some of you, this is not rocket science, and I get that. Maybe it's a reminder for you today, okay?
I'm getting it, Reg. It's making perfect sense to me, and I can overlay it not only with my own business, but with the businesses of my clients, which businesses I understand well. I get where you are I get where you are at with this right now. Next step.
Next one, cost of sales. Okay, if we are going to provide a service, a product, or whatever to that client base, there's a cost involved. Okay, so our cost of sales has to be factored in. And sometimes we could be paying commissions or incentives. We may have affiliates, we may have agents we're working with. These are all part of cost of sales. Your pricing model is part of your cost of sales. If you're going to give them a 50% discount, okay, you've squeezed your profit down. So have a look at your cost of sales. Did that increase or decrease in 2019 to service that client base? I was with a client recently, and we were looking at this cost of sales with a particular client base. And we said, you know what, you've got 12 people in your company looking after only this one client. And over here, you've got one guy looking after this client.
And that's an expensive client to have, Reg.
Yeah, and they were giving a high discount, and their pricing had come down with that particular client. So if volumes come down, frequencies come down, and you still got the same 12 bodies servicing that client.
They should have reconsidered that client long before Corona came.
You got it. And if now, going back to what you said, Stef, if you now really look at profitability, you're not profitable. That client is not profitable. In fact, it's costing you money to have that client. Waste of time. Your energy should be going to the one guy over here in your team who's working with the client that's giving you high volume, high frequency, and cost of sales are manageable, and you're not giving ridiculous discounts. Okay, let's move on. If you've done all these things, you're now going to get to your fixed costs, your operating expenses. For those of you running a small to medium-sized enterprise, hey, it may not be much. It could be your home office. Okay, you may not have staff. Some of you watching today have got staff. Some of you are dealing with clients that have staff.
Beyond that, there are viewers on here who run bigger businesses than those 100-year-old businesses of your family business. There are some CEOs. I see a name or two of a CEO here that is running a serious enterprise. And this goes for them as much as for the medium or even small operator.
Yeah. In fact, it's even more important for the larger businesses because you're dealing with thousands of potential customers.
Got it.
And this has to be broken down. And you may have 100, 200, 500 employees. And I always think, what's the resource allocation? How are we using this human capital towards the most profitable areas for our business? And then we can grow further. So it does apply. So what else? Your fixed costs, your operating expenses. In the time of crisis, and all clients we're dealing with are going through this right now, it comes down to cash flow. I think you'll all agree, okay? Survival mode is about cash flow. So what's your inflow and what's your outflow right now? The financial controllers that I've been talking to in the last month, I say to them, what's your view of your cash flow forecast? For this, next week. What? No. Show me the cash flow forecast for the next 90 days. And it's updated on a daily and weekly basis. Tell me, best case, if all of your clients stayed with you, all your customers stayed with you, what would be your cash flow inflow situation?
At this time, do you think a 90-day window is what we should be looking at?
I'll tell you why. Yes, I'll tell you why. Even though survival is day by day, week by week, you've got to be able to plot, especially if you've got lots of employees as well, you've got to plot out potentially best case and worst case of that cash flow position. Okay, so if it stays as it is, what does it look like? If people start postponing on projects and don't want to do business with you, want to wait till the end of the year, clients are not coming back, not renewing, what does it look like? 50% reduction in your business.
I hear you. I don't want to break your line of thought with this sequence dialogue, but when you, how many more steps in this dialogue that you're working us through right now?
The we short were at version cash flow. About 7 or 8. The long version about 30.
Okay, cool. Keep going. Give us the key points, because I see touch points to the bigger conversation that I want to be having with you. Back at you and everyone, so you know if this call is going to bomb, it's going to happen in the next 8 minutes or so, then go to the new link that Sharon has already posted. Reg, to you.
So I think everyone gets an idea of inflow. Okay, then what's the worst case? 80% reduction in business, 90% reduction in business. And then what's your outflow? With operating expenses, I'm getting all my clients right now to renegotiate their contracts, renegotiate their terms with their suppliers. Okay, decide what they're going to do with their workforce.
These are both sets of contracts, not just with clients, but with suppliers as well, right?
100% with suppliers. Because if you can delay things with the supplier and outflow, okay, but you've got employees to consider. So which employees are going to give you the best return on investment? Which ones can you not afford to lose because of the work that they're doing right now, being with you a long time maybe? Which ones could go on a part-time contract, okay? They may be full-time, but they can go on a part-time contract and then bring them back in full-time later if the situation changes.
Yeah, I hear you.
So that's that. Okay. So going back, if you're looking at all of this, it's going to eventually have an impact on your gross margin and your net profit, as you said earlier, Stef. What does that look like to 2019? And then the final two indicators. Number one, payment terms. Did your payment terms get better or get worse in 2019? Because if you're in a business where you used to get paid up front, and then it shifted to 30 days, then it shifted to, can we pay you in 90 days? And then it shifted to, you know what, we don't know when we can pay you.
And then it shifted to, sorry, we can't pay you.
Exactly. Then that leaves the last bit of this health check would be debt. Why are so many businesses going under this year? Why are even family businesses going under this year? Why are Fortune 500 companies wanting a bailout? The number one reason is debt. Okay. Yes, you've got great cash flow coming in, but your debt is so high that the outflow is going out straight away. Some people are only working for the banks.
And like, obviously, Reg, you need to find ways to manage that debt and negotiate negotiate new terms and not let that be the one thing that drags you down.
100%. So
everyone
going back to it, volume, frequency, okay, looking at cost of sales, looking at your operating expenses, looking at your gross margin that you're getting from what you're doing, looking at your payment terms and looking at the debt situation. Once you start playing around with this model, you will start to understand where your focus needs to go and what could be short-term strategies to survive, sustain, and then grow later, and which ones could take you straight away to growth and maybe other income streams that you haven't looked at. So that's part one. Part 2 and 3.
Part 2 is coming up in a moment. I have a note. I don't know if the notification came up on everyone's screens, but this meeting is going to terminate. And I'm going to suggest that everyone take a peek right now at the new link that Sharon gave. There is also a ID and a password there. Figure out quickly how you're going to capture that so that in a moment when we stop this meeting and start the new one, that you can go to the new meeting. And when you finished with part 2 and 3, Reg, in the time remaining, I want to ask you to speak to us about how succession planning, which I think is something with a very strong focus in family businesses, how we can overlay that into non-family businesses. And then I think that in family businesses, the pain is worse. I say this with respect. The pain has to be worse when it comes to restructuring and layoffs because it's family. However, I see some of my clients here on this chat this morning who I know view their people, their employees, and even their service providers as family. And I think that you can give us rich insight in how we can cope with that in the times that are lying immediately ahead of us.
Sure.
Reg, we're quickly bailing out of here. Everyone, figure out how you're going to get into the new meeting. Do so now, and we will see you in the new meeting absolutely as soon as you can. Reg, touch on those 2 steps, and let's go get to those 2 conversation points that I mentioned to you before. Back at you, Reg.
Thanks, Stef. Welcome all again. So I think, one of the things to conclude on that first part that I was speaking about is just using all those components, those elements as a health check to see where you're at. But moving it to the next stage, most people are competing with other people in the same market, dog eat dogs type strategy. I've got my clients, I'm going to try and look after them, make sure nobody takes them off me, which is the competition, and I will grab customers from my competition, back and forth, back and forth. So I think one thing that's really helped me in 2008, 2009, the last recession, and being ready for this crisis this year, is making sure that there's always a mindset of value addition and innovation. And sometimes we're scared of doing these things, but this is the best time to experiment. You've got to be experimenting with something new that you can offer clients, different ways of solving their problems, coming up with a new value proposition. I'll give you an example. Last night, I created a separate WhatsApp group for ultra high net worth individuals who have a net worth of over $100 million, okay? And I'm just going to share with you what's happened since last night.
Share their names and their email addresses.
I'm not going to share the names.
Put their names and email addresses and their PIN numbers on screen share now.
Yeah. In the group, there is now 62 participants. You can work out the numbers yourself of the value of those 62 people based on having a minimum of $100 million in net worth. By the way, I started the group at 7:35 p.m. last night. The 62 were on board by this morning. Now, I asked myself, I thought maybe if I get 5 or 6 in the group, I'll be happy. Why did 62 people join this group? I was like, what's going on? Why? I didn't know this many people would join a group. What do they all need? One, they want to be surrounded with people who are similar to themselves. Okay, they don't want to be on Facebook or LinkedIn or other things, or even show up in certain webinars. They need some private group where some real learning can take place, and they want some updates. And I put in the description, I'll only send one update a day, no other spamming. Okay, no other long chats, just one bit of information a day. Could be a video, could be an article. And now I've got people messaging me saying, can my son join? Can my daughter join? Can I send this to my CEO? I don't know where this group's going to go in the next 1 week, but it was purely sitting there in my garden last night thinking, what else can I do to add value to people?
Reg, just a quick compliment at you, a quick shout out. I think there's a lesson in there for everyone on this conversation this morning, is to how agile and how swiftly you move, how agile you are and how swiftly you move. Reg and I are also involved in another group of international, in a group of international speakers and consultants where we are collaborating and creating new opportunities. And of the dozen or so people in that group, Reg, and some of the top A-listers of our industry worldwide are in that group. And of all of them, you move faster than any of us on every idea that comes out in that group. I think that shines a light on us. And if you're passing some of that on to your clients, that's one of the reasons they must be dealing with you, Reg.
Stef, I appreciate your kind words. I really do. And I think that the message I'd want to leave off the back of what you're saying is really experimentation. I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 17. I lost everything at the age of 21, became a millionaire at 26, built a $20 million company after that, lost it again. And that was all by the time I was 31, okay? So I share this from my heart and with my experience, that one thing I've learned with entrepreneurship, if you want to regenerate, if you want to create more value, if you want to innovate and not just be stuck, you have to experiment. Okay, all the unicorn businesses, billion-dollar unicorn businesses that have come in the last 10 years have come from a group of people sitting around a table going, right, what big problem can we solve? What crazy thing can we come up with? Let's disrupt. Let's start. Now, in that chaos of not having perfection and not knowing everything and not having the best business plan in the world, that dream team came along and figured out and came out with solutions to the problems as they went on the journey. So for those of you listening, are you stuck in your old way where everything has to be in place perfectly and tested before you hit the button? Or experiment. I have no issues if something doesn't work. I'd rather find 10 ways of it not working within a week to find the one thing that everybody suddenly now wants. So it goes back to what Stef just said. How nimble are you? How agile are you? Are you scared? Are you living in fear? Or just make a decision? What could you do? Experiment. And Stef.
To that question of mine about how family businesses are dealing with laybacks and reduction, have you had to deal with I said laybacks, I meant layoffs. Have you had to deal with any layoffs or reductions which have impacted on family members in family businesses in this time?
Yeah, there's a different ways of looking at that, Steph. One would be, I've definitely had conversations recently with family board meetings to say, right, everyone needs to take a cut. And that's been difficult because some of these family members have got extravagant lifestyles. And suddenly when you're told, by the way, you're not taking any salary for the next couple of months, and that holiday and other things you plan for end of the year ain't happening, okay? That's been quite painful for a few people, but when they look at the bigger picture, they're okay with it, they accept it.
I get you.
Then in other cases, the real pain has been when someone's been with you for 25, 30 years as an employee, they're part of your leadership team, but then they haven't been adding real value the last few years. You are thinking about cutting costs, and now what do? You're in a bit of a dilemma. Do you pay off that person and let them go? It's time to go and exit fully. I've got one client right now that's saying to me, Reg, he's got 5,000 employees, okay, in the organization. And he's saying to me, Reg, I don't care, okay, coronavirus or no coronavirus, what crisis is going on. I will do everything I can to make sure I retain all 5,000 employees. I'm not going to let go of anyone. It's subject to my cash flow. If my cash flow can sustain it, I'm keeping all of them. Yeah. But I'm not making any of those decisions right now. So everybody's different, Steph, in their mindset and how they want to approach these things.
I want to just take that one step further and ask you for some advice. And I wanted to mention a specific company name, and then I glanced and saw that their CEO is on with us this morning. And even though he's on, I'm going to mention their company name. And if he wants to come in and share an idea with anyone, I will have you on as a guest. You'll know in a minute exactly who I'm talking about. But until then, I will leave you anonymous unless you choose otherwise. And if you are happy to come on and share a few thoughts with the rest of our listeners this morning, drop me a note in the private notes. Send it only to me and just say yes if you're up for it. So, Reg, one of my client companies is one of the premier cold and frozen food, for lack of a better description, haulage companies. And they're one of the premier ones on the continent. They get the frozen food in the containers off the ships, store and warehouse it, and distribute it on behalf of the retailers to the retail stores at the furthest ends of the country. So it's a massive logistics operation. And when this happened, the steps that Etlin, this company, have taken, Reg, for me it's just lifted my spirits to see the extent to which they have gone to keep their people informed and empowered on board. They immediately created on-site accommodation, Reg, for all employees, so that employees could live on site while keeping the operation open. And last we spoke, they had been paying full wages across the entire operation. Last we spoke was late last week. And that's their envisioned future. That's how they're going to take it going forward. It's clients like those that give me some hope at this time, and decision makers like the MD of that company that tell me that it's going to be okay. You must know people like that in your own network as well, Reg.
Yeah, and it comes down to your values, your guiding principles of how you operate. So with a lot of families that we deal with, we build things like family charters and constitutions. And I won't bore you with that today, but the one key thing in the family charter constitution is what are your family values? Now you could transfer this to what's your company values. So your values become your guiding principles, and Stef's an expert in this with UGRs with his partner, Steve Simpson. But we spend a lot of time with families understanding those principles, and then there's no compromise. Because if you're living your values, you will follow through. If that means looking after all your employees no matter what, that's what you're going to do.
Funny you should mention that, because Reg, as you know, Steve and I have identified the that MD client of mine. Drop me a note if you want to share an idea or two with everyone live. I've not heard from you yet, and if you don't let me know, I'm going to leave you alone. Reg, you know that Steve and I have identified a couple of crisis UGRs that organizations should focus on right now, care being one of them. And when I worked with the executive team of this client company of Etlin just the other day online, would you not believe that they rated among the 4 crisis UGRs that are imperative now, they rated care towards the very top of their priorities, and how to demonstrate care. Now, that's what leadership is about. I have a yes from Christo Niemand, the MD of that company, and I'm going to bring him into the conversation in a few minutes' time. Reg?
So maybe to add to what you're saying, I think going back to what decisions you make with employees does come back to your principles, but also it comes back to the two things again. It comes down to your cash flow and debt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know of 2 families right now, one in UAE and one in Lebanon, which are families where their principles from a very young age has been to have 0 debt. Okay. These are 2 families today that are cash rich, don't owe anybody any money. Now you can imagine now, how will they deal with their employees? They're in a position of strength, and they can go and acquire businesses or assets on the cheap because everybody else is desperate to get money in.
Yeah.
So there's a strategy there for everybody as well, which is what is your philosophy and principles around debt? And I would say get ready for the next growth cycle. If you've missed out on this cycle and having cash reserves and acquiring talent and acquiring other assets, what could you do with your business model to acquire as much reserves or build as much reserves as you can by 2025, 2026, 2027? And guess what? Within the next 7-10 years, the next cycle is going to kick in again, and there'll be another recession or another downturn. If you look from the early 70s, data shows us that. So, this is how some family businesses have continued to grow and grow and grow by also working the system, okay, the financial system and the economic cycles.
Yeah, got it.
Warren Buffett is a genius at this. He's mastered it. Sitting on $150 billion of cash, and everyone's saying, spend it, spend it, spend it. No, thank you. No, thank you. Why? Because he was waiting for 2020 to come along.
So,
Stef.
I have a question for you and for Christo Niemand, Managing Director of Ethlin. I have a question for the two of you. Give us one or two practical pointers at two levels for the business owners and senior executive people watching now. The pointer is how they can demonstrate greater care to their people now as a leader behavior during this time, or if there are other speakers, consultants on for advice that they can give to their clients on what they can do to demonstrate greater care at this time as a leader behavior. Christo, thanks for being willing to chat with us. Christo and Reg, the question is open to both of you. Take it away.
Stef, perhaps if I can go first. Obviously, you caught me unawares on this one. But I think in terms of care, what we discussed last week as well is really speak to your people, find out how they are, really be interested in their circumstances, their what drives their behavior at this point in time. Where do they find struggles? I mean, everything is absolutely new at the moment in terms of work from home, also from our staff that's on site. Obviously, they not with their families at this point in time, but struggling with certain emotions and longings, and just motivate. I think the other thing that we spoke about is obviously also absolute transparency and be transparent in terms of where we are at the moment, where we want to go to, and focus.
Christo, just tell us quickly, I know, but tell the other folk listening how you and your senior team are communicating frequently with all your employees at this time. What medium are you using?
Stef, we've tried several mediums. We've created a SMS system, a WhatsApp system, and we try to send as many as possible voice notes to our employees. Also, YouTube channels that we've put together some inspirational videos of the people working on site, from home, in the offices. We've got all three places people working at the moment. So yeah, just trying to communicate as much as possible and keeping them informed.
Christo, thank you, and thank you for sharing us with us. I really look up to how you and your team are doing things right now, and I use you guys as a case study and an example to my other clients. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I can just say it's an incredible team that I have that I can rely on. So I think that's also very important to note.
Reg, that's always the case, that good leaders have good teams. Hey, Reg, do you have any one or two quick practical points on how we can demonstrate care as a leader behavior at this time?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I think I can only think about what I've done with my team when this crisis sort of came about. What tends to happen, human nature, fear kicks in, doubt kicks in, confusion kicks in. So this is on sort of this side, and I call these emotional blockages, which can have an impact also on performance and results. And over here, as a leader, communication has to go up. Communication. But basics like, how are you feeling today? If I take one of my team members, a single mother, young child, working from home, schools are all closed on lockdown, homeschooling needs to be done. I want to be able to ring that person up and say, how are you feeling today? Look, I know you're not going to be available during these hours in the day because you've got to look after your son, you've got to do the homeschooling. I get that. Okay, I'm okay with that. Yeah, don't feel pressured that you feel I've got an issue that you're not going to be available to do your work. So for me, communication, having that empathy, how you're feeling, putting yourself in their shoes, because their world is not going to be like your world. Every one of your employees has a different version of what their world looks like and what's important to them. Eliminate the doubt, eliminate confusion, eliminate the fear, eliminate, and you find people will thank you for it for the long term, because they go, you know what, this person really genuinely cares about me, and I will bend over and do everything I can. When everything, you know, there's a crisis, if the crisis gets worse, I am there, I'm loyal, I'm going to give 100% to this company. Not, well, you know, once everything gets better, my resume's out there and I'm out of this company because the way they treated me, I'm out.
And how we treat our people now is going to define how we go forward. Reg, one of the things that you are a master of in the businesses that you work with has to surely be succession, because that is has to be top of the list in family businesses. Share with us whatever ideas you have regarding succession planning that we can translate to non-family businesses, to business in general.
Briefly, on a family level, the best succession plan is to have children under the age of 7 become observers of your business. Okay, I'll leave that for a different interview with Stef in the future, because I could talk 3 hours on that and have over 100 case studies of the value of injecting the right values and principles into children who will become your future successors.
Did I hear you say under the age of 7?
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. Now, for corporates, non-family businesses, a good succession plan can take 3 to 5 years. So if you think you've got to a stage where you think, I don't want to be in the business anymore, I want to be on the business, I've got someone in mind in the company, I'm going to start handing over my duties, responsibilities to them, and I'm going to be sipping cocktails on a beach in 6 months' time after COVID crisis and jumping on a plane, think again. It takes 3 to 5 years to build a really good succession plan, to build good habits, work side by side with someone, release your responsibilities to them over time, and eventually that person can take the baton from you and take over as CEO or MD or whatever the position's going to be. So the tip I'm going to say is don't rush the process. Don't rush it based on your human needs and crisis that you've got, where you want to exit or move on to something else, or you're not happy and you don't enjoy what you're doing anymore. So these are a few things to consider. The second thing would be the team. So about 15 years ago, we created our own model of building dream teams, and it's all in, if you ever get a chance to get a copy of my book, it's all based around DNA profiling. And I'm happy to send the descriptions to Stef, and he can forward them to everyone on the webinar today. And very briefly, it's based on 9 profiles. This is not based on DISC or Myers-Briggs or Belbin. All of those tools out there are fantastic to add on to what we do. So briefly, I'd like to share with you the 9 profiles really quickly. And I'd like you to identify with what are the top 2 out of the 9 I'm going to share with you, first of all. Number 2, what would be the 2 that you would hate doing, would be frustrating for you, okay? And lastly, where is the biggest gap out of the 9 for your business? In the context of your leadership team right now, not the rest of your organization. So once you understand the model, you'll realize that you need all 9 in your dream team. You can start off with 4 initially to build what we call a unicorn. If you take some of the unicorns built the last 10 years, they actually started with 4 people in the team and then grew to 9 in the dream team. So let's go real quick. Is that all right, Stef?
Go. In fact, you're doing a 2-in-1, because my final question to you would have been to speak to us about building a dream team, because I know of the depth of work that you've done in this field.
There you go. Okay. So let's work smart with this. First profile. Okay. And if anyone wants to put these in the chat, then everyone can have this list by the end of it. Number 1 is the innovator. Okay. Other words would be creator, pioneer, visionary. This is someone whose brain works really, really fast, constantly coming up with new ideas all the time, can't sit still, fidgets, can come up with new ideas very, very quickly. However, As a leader in a business, they confuse the hell out of people. They can give ideas, but they'll confuse everyone because they changed their mind from last week. So if your innovator profile in your business today, you should only show up in small doses. You should also not work with everybody else at HQ. You need to be away from everybody. But everybody needs the innovator. Steve Jobs was an innovator. Bill Gates was an innovator. You need them, but you don't need them all the time. Now, in a crisis situation, if you want more value addition or innovation, you need the innovator in your team. So that's one. Number two, the planner. The planner profile, other words, engineer, designer, developer, improver. This person is meticulous with detail. 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, straight lines, OCD. You can see behind me my bookshelf. I am an OCD, all right? I like to plan. I like to have process. I like to have systems built, which is what's created all my intellectual property the last 15 years.
I'm going to ask Petra to please continue. Shout out to Petra for starting the list, and I'm going to ask Petra to please continue with the list. Go, Reg.
Yeah, so planner. So innovators and planners love working together because the innovator is going to come up with the idea. The planner goes, let's go. Okay, let's come up with a plan. Let's come up with a strategy. Let's go. If the business is already up and running, the innovator will give new ideas and the planner will look to way to improve the existing infrastructure, what's already built. Okay, great. Third profile, promoter profile. Larger than life character, has a big ego. Give them a stage, give them a microphone, off they go, okay? After that, they become introvert, don't want to talk to anybody. The promoter is great at promoting, marketing, presenting, publicizing the brand, product, or service. However, they're also going to rub people up the wrong way, and they need the limelight. If they don't get the limelight, they can become rebels, and they get into a lot of trouble, okay? So this is the promoter profile. So for those of you right now who are struggling with lead generation, more business coming in, you may be lacking the promoter profile that's creating more visibility for your brand. Maybe you've got an introverted leadership team that are not accustomed to doing that naturally. So the promoter profile could be missing. Third profile, links with the care value that Stef talked about, is the connector profile. The connector profile has the biggest heart. They remember people's birthdays. They just know stuff about them, their children, birthdays, anniversaries. They give people gifts on a regular basis. It's all about the relationship. They can make introductions. They love networking. They love socializing in small group settings. So this is the connector profile. Internally in your organization, this is perfect for HR. Externally, perfect for customer relationships. The connector is going to make sure the glue is there in your culture and glue is there with your customers.
Got it.
So if you're a leadership team now and you don't have a connector, start worrying because nobody is in touch with all the customers and clients that you have. Okay? You're staying away from that when really you need it in a crisis situation more than ever.
Connector was 4, right?
Someone's counting on the chat, I believe. Innovator.
I'm doing it now. I'm doing it.
Promoter, connector 4.
Go.
5, mentor. Okay? A mentor is the most patient person in developing other people. They nurture people. Okay? They're good counselors, coaches, teachers, trainers. They're very good with teams of up to about 20 people. After that, chaos comes in because you've got more people issues, and the mentor doesn't really like to operate in that environment. But let them work on projects and go from team to team, one-to-one or groups of 20 people, they flourish. They'll nurture people. So if you are not mentor dominant in your leadership team, guess what you're going to do right now in a crisis? No coaching, no mentoring, no training. You're staying away from all those things. And right now, if you want a competitive advantage, you should be coaching, you should be mentoring, you should be training the workforce right now. Next profile, operator profile. First aggressive profile out of the 9 profiles. This is a person who thrives on chaos. Hope you got that. Thrives on chaos. By the way, if there's no chaos, the operator will create the chaos and then solve the problem. They love situations where there's processes, people, product, but none of it's really working or gelling. They love it when execution is not happening because they will drive execution. They're masterful at delegating things out to other people and following up, They're great with execution. They're great at delegating, and things will get done with the operator. However, flip side, they're not like the innovator or the planner. If you give them an empty shell or a startup and say to the operator, off you go, the operator will scratch their head and have no idea what to do. There's got to be an environment already set up that isn't working in order for the operator to come to life. Just for a second, I worked with a multi-billionaire once with 50 plus companies, and what we did, he wasn't an operator. We had to make sure that all 50 companies had an operator profile. He was the innovator, okay? He would come up with the ideas and look for the next acquisition or new product, but every business he built had to have the operator in it.
Reg, and when you don't have that person on a team, you go and recruit that person, or you find them in the organization, or you develop skills of someone on the team, right?
You've got it. You've got it. You do the profiling. You've got raw talent in the organization. We'll nurture that person as a succession plan for the future.
Got it.
To replace an existing operator or hire someone fresh immediately.
We have 5 minutes before this session shuts us out. Go, number 7.
Do we go to another session after this?
No, we're good. Sharon. Sharon, set up another session if anyone wants to visit with us afterwards, please. Sharon, give me a thumbs up in one of your profiles that I can see you've got me. And Sharon will set up a Q&A, another link for us, a third link. And she'll post it momentarily. Number 7, Reg.
Okay, next profile, negotiator profile. Show me the money, like Jerry Maguire film, okay? Show me the money. The negotiator profile doesn't care what happened last month. They don't care what's going to happen next month. In fact, the negotiator profile doesn't care what's happened with coronavirus in the last 2 months. They don't even care what's going to happen in the next 6 months. They're only interested in what can I buy and what can I sell today? What can I achieve by 5 o'clock today? They're very fast with numbers. They love signing the contract, closing the deal, trading, interrogating someone, selling something. So if you've got a bunch of connectors in your business right now in sales, but you don't have the negotiator, you're going to have great relationships, but the till is not ringing. You have to have someone who's closing all day long in the leadership team. Next profile, banker. The banker loves numbers more than the negotiator with substance. They love their spreadsheets. They use 2 calculators at the same time. They'll tell you exactly what has come in and what's going out. They'll be very cynical in a crisis situation, say, don't spend any money. But they'll give you all the accurate information of today versus last week, last month with the financials. So you need that to make the right decisions for the future.
And what was the name of that profile?
Banker profile.
I get it.
And the last one,
yes, go,
is the investor profile, the Warren Buffett. This is the slowest person in the team to make decisions. They need information, data. They're good at protecting themselves and other people, doing research. And every decision they make is for the long term, never for the short term. But they'll take their time before they make any decision if money's going to be spent. So those are the 9. If you've got those 9 in a dream team, you've got every area covered, crisis or no crisis. So in summary, what are the top 2 which are easy for you, love to do? Okay, those are you. What are the bottom 2 that if you had to do it, you would hate it? You'd be frustrated if you had to do it every day. And lastly, where is the biggest gap right now out of the 9 for your business at leadership level or family level? Where is an area that you need to sort out immediately? And that would be the take-home value from this page.
Reg, before we bomb out of this session, I'm posting quickly, and I'm not checking spelling. It's on a screen that's far from me. I've posted all of that information. Everyone give me a thumbs up visibly, or use your reaction button quickly if you are going to join us for a further chat after this, so that I know whether we should go to a new chat. Yes, I see some takers, Reg. We are going to do it. Sharon is posting the link. I think she has posted the new link. There it is. There's the new link. Figure it out, guys. I'm going to wrap this as if it is a close, so that for editing purposes, we now last minute. I'm going to wrap this as if we're done. Everyone, thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming. Reg, thank you. Good luck. Good riddance. Goodbye. See you on the next one, if there is. We'll keep you posted. Bye, everyone. Those that are joining us on the new chat, we'll see you there in a moment. Reg, I'll see you on the new chat. Reg, thank you for coming back here for injury time. Thanks for coming back for injury time. Let's pick up where we were, and I'll do it this way. One moment, Reg, let me fix the screen behind me just for the video. Everybody.
So yeah, Steph, thanks. I think I've got about 15 minutes or so on another Zoom meeting soon, but
let's call it shorter than that. Let's handle one last conversation point. So Reg, what is there about family businesses and their legacies that we haven't touched on that is transferable to normal business that you can tell us about?
Whoa. I think
any overlay. Some of the best case studies that you've seen in family business that is applicable anyway.
See, I think again, if I explain family businesses versus normal businesses, what's the difference? If I give you the 3 circles, okay, what are the 3 circles? You've got a family circle, you've got a business circle, and you've got what we call an ownership circle. So let's translate that to non-family. Family will be owners, investors, leadership team.
Yes.
In the business, you've got managers, supervisors.
Yes.
And third circle would be the rest of the workforce. Okay.
I get it.
So for me, the real distinction with family business ownership is you're dealing with family members who are bloodline, okay, who grow up in an environment where they can see these people who've worked extremely hard for many years and appreciate this and go, wow, I'd like to be part of this, hopefully. And eventually the connection with the first circle and the second circle is the overlap, is that family members now end up joining the business, okay? The third circle, ownership, is about assets, shareholder agreements, who owns what. So going back to, an SME or a normal business, I think the only difference, the biggest distinction in these 3 areas would be the family circle, where what allows our clients to carry on with their legacies by building what we call a family constitution and a family charter. And many years ago, I ended up building what we call a partnership charter. So these were 2 different people who'd come together, not bloodline related.
Yes.
Shook hands, went into business with each other, and ended up building a phenomenal business. Steve, it's a bit like you and Stef, you and Steve being partners for 20 plus years. You're not bloodline related, but it probably feels like you're bloodline related now. Yeah.
He feels like my other wife some days.
Yeah. and both of you will have to reach a decision at some point in the next 5 years, 10 years, whenever, to go, right, we've built this company, we've built this brand, we've got all these clients around the world. What happens now beyond us? The question would be, Steve, when do you want to retire? Steph, when do you want to retire? Well, I don't. One of them says, I don't want to retire. One says, I do want to retire. Okay, well, with our children, are any of our children interested or passionate with what we're doing? Would we like to bring them into this business? So now, you've created a family business in a completely different framework with 2 people, non-bloodline, coming together. The same could now apply in a corporate, which is you've got the founder, you've got a leadership team, and the leadership team has an expiry date. Okay, every leadership team has an expiry date for different reasons: health conditions, needs to retire, contracts coming to an end, can't deliver anymore, lack of energy, has learned no new skills in the last 10 years, is feeling insecure because the 20-year-olds have come into the business, whatever the reason is. So succession also needs to happen in that context as well. So I think going back for a second, the biggest one thing that supports family business, partnerships, and even in a corporate capacities, having some type, I leave you with this one thing, is having some type of charter. What is the charter? Constitution. If a country can have a constitution, why can't a company have a constitution? And
a family, even when it's not a family business.
Correct. So to give you an example, I have 4 children. My eldest is 23, second one 22, my daughter's 19, my youngest son is 17. We started our family constitution, because I've got to practice what I preach with clients, when my youngest was 8 years of age. He'll be 18 in 10 days' time, which means we started the process 10 years ago when he was 8. But today we have a family constitution charter that the entire family understand. So whether the kids are joining me in the family business with me and my wife, whether it's my son who started his own business but is still part of our structure.
And I know that one way or another, your children are involved and engaged in your business and in each other's businesses.
Correct. So going back to the non-family business is, we have this spiel of vision, big, what is it called? Big head, hairy, ambitious goals, the massive transformational purpose. There's loads of buzzwords out there. We've got our own in our company called VIP, Vision, Intention, Purpose. So your charter, your constitution really is like a charter document that says, wow, this is what the next 100 years could look like.
And leadership teams need that charter if they want to take their business to the next level.
Yeah, because what are they signing up to, Stef? They're signing up to the work that you do. These are our values.
Yep.
This is our mission. This is our massive purpose of serving millions or billions of customers one day with our product or service. Or we want to change the lives of this type of group in the world. What are we going for? And that's what becomes compelling to say, yeah, that's what we're shooting for. And anyone who joins the organization is going to be part of that. So, and then the rest of it, what is it? Ground rules like you do, code of conduct maybe, what are our basic rules in the organization? How does succession take place where someone is giving up what they're doing and moves into a different role? When do you have to let go? All of this needs to be documented. How does your board running? For those of you who have larger businesses still listening to me, do you have a business board? What is the governance behind that business board? This is also in the charter.
Don't leave this for when the next crisis strikes. Get this in place before the crisis and the meltdown comes. Yes, Reg?
Stef, hit the nail on the head. Let me give you a case study. There's a family business right now in the UAE. I won't mention who, but it is public domain and they're not our client. I pitched them 2 years ago to become our client, but unfortunately they were a bit too arrogant to say, yes, we need this. Today they are sitting on $8 billion of debt. They owe money to 80 banks. One of the banks is owed $1.5 billion, is going to take them to the cleaners. The chairman of the family business, the founder, who's worked very hard for 45 years to build this empire, has declared that he had bad governance and there was fraud taking place with his senior management team across 2 of the businesses. That's bad governance. There was no governance in place. There were no rules in place of how the board is structured, how you make big decisions, who signs off on them.
And when it goes wrong, it does not just affect the people at the top, it affects innocent people right down the food chain, right?
Exactly. So I hope for, I don't know how many, 10 people who've stuck around for part 3, I hope I've given you value and you've got some good tips. And thanks, Stef, for doing this. And we got to part 3.
Reg,
and these are the loyal.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Awesome. Not always just chatting with you, but learning from you. And thanks for being a shining light, buddy. You walk the talk and you practice what you preach. And you're an inspiration. Reg, thanks for being with us. Everyone else, have an awesome day. Everyone, good luck.
Yes, sir.
Good riddance. Goodbye.
Bye for now.
Be well. Ciao, Reg. Good to see you, buddy.